Hi, this is Mark from LongIslandWatch.com, and today I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about watch sizes. Here I've got three different marathon watches, all of a similar style, but in extremely different sizes, ranging from 36 here on the far left to a tremendous 46 here on the far right. I'll go over each one briefly so you can see what they look like, maybe even on my kind of smaller 6 3/4 inch wrist. So maybe it'll help you decide which watch size might be best for you. So the first watch we're going to look at is the Marathon Midsize T-SAR, Search and Rescue. This is a 36 millimeter diameter watch. That's without the crown, so measuring from here to here. It is 12 millimeters thick, front to back. You can see it's pretty much flat, front and back. And if you measure lug tip to lug tip, which is this dimension right here, tip to tip, it's around 44 millimeters. So we didn't always sell this watch. We only started receiving it maybe 6 months ago or so. When we originally started with Marathon, we started with more of the popular watches, or I should say the popular size watches, the 40s, the 41s, the 42s. This one was overlooked, and we got a bunch of requests for it, and so over time we started stocking it, and I'm actually amazed at how many we sell, being that it is a 36 millimeter watch. I originally said 36, no way, that's not for us. But as you get to know the watch, you realize that it's a 36 millimeter diameter watch, which to you might seem small, but then when you put it on your wrist, given this nice thickness here, it has tremendous wrist presence. I have a 6 3/4 inch wrist, and if I just kind of lay it over my wrist there, if I lay it over my 6 3/4 inch wrist, you can kind of see that it's nowhere near a tiny watch. It doesn't look like a vintage 36 millimeter watch that you might be used to. That's usually the size that you see vintage pieces at. So very surprised at again how popular this watch is, and many people get the 41 and they realize it's way too big for them. Something that was interesting on this piece that won't be present in the others is the strap. So this strap has one hole punched in it. When you get the strap, it's got no holes punched in it, and it's just got a bunch of little areas where you can stick the prong through, and you can break through, kind of like a punched in electrical box. So the watch will always maintain that, the watch strap will always maintain that smooth exterior, except for the one hole that you put the prong through. It's pretty cool. I've actually never seen a watch like this. It keeps it very neat and clean. This is a tritium tube watch, which means that when the lights go out, the tritium is what provides the glow. And there you can see the hands, the markers, all glow. At 12 o'clock you have an orange light instead of a green light, and that's your orientation, so you know that that's where 12 o'clock is. The bezel is luminous paint instead of being a tritium tube. The good thing about tritium, as you probably know, is it glows for many, many years, and you never have to worry about charging it in light. So when it's dark out, you can keep the watch in a drawer for months. When you take it out, and if it's still dark in the room, you will see exactly what you just saw. The light does not dim. But anyway, this video is more about watch sizes, so I really just want to give you an appreciation, for the watch. And that, you can't always believe, when you see 36 millimeters, you can't always believe what that number means. Sometimes you just have to kind of, try it on your wrist. Unfortunately, online you can't, but, you got other numbers like the lug tip to lug tip dimension that we discussed before is 44 millimeters. So that certainly makes it wear larger than you would think. So moving on, this is a Marathon G-SAR. This is a 41 millimeter watch. 41 millimeters case diameter. The bezel actually adds a millimeter. As you can see, the bezel overhangs the case a bit. The bezel adds a millimeter overall to the diameter. So it's 42 millimeters with the bezel, 41 without, and this is 14 millimeters thick. This one is an auto. This also comes in a quartz variety. The one I showed you before was a quartz, comes in auto. This is an auto, also comes in quartz, trying to give you a little mix up here. The watch from lug tip to lug tip is 48 millimeters. So here you've gained 4 millimeters in diameter, so you've gained 4 millimeters tip to tip. Similar lugs, they don't really curve down around the wrist, so this watch I would say wears larger than a 41 normally would. And again, I think that's what makes the 36 millimeter version so popular. A bunch of different case back writing. This is also water resistant to 1,000 feet or 300 meters. Look at the cut on that bezel. I mean, that thing is easy to grab, and it gives a very satisfying click when turned. It turns very smoothly. Nice screw down crown. Very well executed. This is a U.S. government version. They do make this in a sterile version, or at least they used to. I'm not sure if they still do, where they take the U.S. government off of the dial. This has a standard rubber strap with holes already punched in it. Nothing wrong with that. Again, I just thought on the mid-size that strap without holes in it was really cool. Very different. Sign buckle on all of them. Excuse my little tag that gives me my notes. Now, if you don't know Marathon, Marathon is a Canadian company. They make watches for the U.S. military. They make watches for the Canadian military. Not only, when you say they make watches, they actually are on the qualified supplier list for watches. So if the government is going to issue something to a GI, this would be a watch that they could issue to them. So a lot of companies make watches that, troops use them, and troops, a troop can use a Timex. There's nothing really governing nowadays of what you're allowed to use, but this is a watch that's actually supplied to the Canadian military and the U.S. military. So being that, it has to meet a wide variety of environmental tests, in-process testing. They test every certain number of pieces that come off the production line to make sure that they still are conforming to all the specifications. This is another tritium tube watch. So again, you turn out the lights, and there goes the tritium tubes. You'll notice the bezel, which has a luminous paint applied, is much brighter than the tritium. But if we were to sit here for a couple hours, that bezel would fade very quickly. And these markers on the tubes and the hands, these markers, the tubes on the markers and the tubes on the hands will continue their glow. They will not fade. They'll stay like that for years and years and years, long after this paint has given up all its luminosity. But again, you just turn on the light, or you take it outside, it gets charged up again, and then this guy is good to go again, but the tubes, again, do not need that. It's a pretty cool feature. Screw down crown. Again, good for that, 300 meter, 1,000 feet water resistance. Look at the depth of that thing. Wow, it's pretty deep. So let's put this, I'll put this on my wrist and you can see what it looks like. This time I'll take my glove off, so you can kind of see. Again, my wrist is about 6 3/4 inches, so I think it fits me okay. But I thought the 36 fit me as well. I mean, I tend to wear watches that are usually a little bit bigger than normal. I'll wear a 42 or a 43 millimeter watch with no bezel on it. And people would say that's a big watch, but that's just the way I'm comfortable wearing it, and it fits on me and I'm happy. And really, at the end of the day, that's kind of all that counts, as long as you're happy. But I think this still fits me fine. I'll go back and I'll pop the 36 millimeter on real quick without a glove. So again, the 36 still looks good. I think it fits fine. And being that, 4 millimeters, I think 4 millimeters in the watch world is a tremendous amount. I mean, it really is. It's, 160 thousandths of an inch. But when you look at these two side by side, I don't know, does it look that much different? It's a little bit bigger, but then the bezel sizes are different. So I think there's more going on there than just, dial size. But still a great comparison. Lastly, here is the Big Daddy, the Granddaddy. This is the JSAR, the Jumbo Search and Rescue. It's 46 millimeters in diameter this way. It is a whopping 17 millimeters thick. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? That's a big piece. And then tip to tip, it's at 50 millimeters. So from here to here. This is tremendous. It's got a high torque ETA quartz movement in it. It has to, because the hands are so tremendous. You don't think about it, but as watches get bigger and the hands get bigger, the step motors that turn the hands need to have more and more torque, or else they simply will fail and they will not move the hands. Now this watch, even though it's a Marathon, does not have tritium. It's got their compound called Mariglo. Mariglow is a compound that needs light to charge up, but then after it's charged, there it goes. You could see it's very bright, and they even, kind of kept with the tritium theme where they keep the orange marker at 12 o'clock for orientation, which is very important, and also 2 dots on the chapter ring. You can see every indice has 1 dot, and then there's 2 dots for 12 o'clock. Again, that's for visual alignment. But this is just a monster. I mean, look how thick that is. Look at just the detail work. They do a phenomenal job. They really make a great piece. And this just screams tactical. Excuse me. See that bezel? One-way bezel on all of them. This is again 1,000 feet, 300 meters, water resistant. This is just a beast. Standard 2-line rubber strap. All of these they do make a stainless steel bracelet for, and again, extremely high quality stainless steel bracelet comes with these if you go for that option. This thing is a weight. Now this is something that I would not wear. I think it's too big for me. This is on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. I mean, it's tremendous. Like Flavor Flav. Still a beautiful watch though. One thing I wanted to mention on the marathon watches is that the ones that are made for the government, like that middle one that I showed you, they come with this really complete name tag on the sleeve of the box. And there's the part number. I'm just putting my thumb over the serial number. We highlight that so we can easily pick and pack it. But you see the 6645 number up here? That's a national stock number that the government issues. So the government's actually already issued a part number to this piece, and that's how they inventory it. Tells you one each, and then there's a really typical U.S. government description. You start with the broadest topic. It's a watch, and then after that it's wrist, and then it's a diver's automatic. And then on the next line you have the manufacturer and then their CAGE code. CAGE is an acronym for commercial and government entity. Every company that supplies something to the government has their own dedicated CAGE code. Just thought that was pretty cool, and it really gives you a feel for where they come from, and that these watches really are issued to the military when required. Again, this has been Mark from LongIslandWatch.com discussing the sizes of marathon watches with you. This really applies to any watch out there. You can't always tell by the size how it's going to fit on you. There's a lot more that comes into it. The thickness, the style. Does it have a bezel? Is the bezel thick? What do the lugs look like? Do they curve around the wrist? What's the distance between them, etc.? So if you like this video, please do like it. And if you're not subscribing to us, please subscribe. And if you have any questions, put them down below and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you very much.